You know that exact moment when you realize he's pulling away again. The messages become shorter, the calls less frequent, and suddenly you're analyzing every interaction like a detective searching for clues. You've been here before, haven't you? Different face, same devastating pattern. Here's what's truly unsettling. Research shows that 73% of women report experiencing the same type of heartbreak repeatedly, yet most never understand why they're magnetically drawn to the very men who will eventually break their hearts. The neuroscience behind this repetitive heartbreak reveals something extraordinary about how our brains process romantic attachment. When we fall in love, the areas of our brain associated with self-referential thinking, essentially the parts that maintain our individual identity, become less active. We literally lose ourselves in love, and our sense of self becomes intertwined with the other person. This neurological merger explains why heartbreak doesn't just feel like losing someone else. It feels like losing yourself. Your brain processes emotional pain using the same pathways it uses for physical injury, which means the agony you experience isn't metaphorical, it's neurologically real. What if everything you've been told about attraction and relationships is fundamentally wrong? What if your repeated heartbreak isn't about bad luck or poor choices, but something far deeper operating in your unconscious mind? Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who mapped the hidden territories of human consciousness, discovered that we don't actually fall in love with people. We fall in love with projections of our own unconscious material. When that person leaves, cheats, or disappoints you, it's not only the relationship that shatters, it's the illusion you've built around them. And that collapse feels like death because you've tied your self-worth to something that was never truly real to begin with. This isn't another surface-level dating advice video promising quick fixes. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand exactly why you've been unconsciously selecting partners who confirm your deepest wounds, and more importantly, how to break free from this pattern forever. Jung's insights reveal that your heartbreak follows a psychological blueprint written long before you even met him. Every heartbreak reveals what you have not yet faced within yourself: your jealousy, your obsession, your fear of being alone. These aren't flaws. They're parts of your shadow that were exiled because they were once rejected. And in love, you hand them to someone else to manage. The modern dating landscape, with its endless options on apps, ghosting culture, and emotional unavailability disguised as independence, has created the perfect storm for these unconscious patterns to play out repeatedly. Every swipe right, every ignored message, every hot and cold dynamic is actually your psyche, attempting to resolve unfinished psychological business through romantic relationships. What makes this particularly devastating is that the more consciousness you bring to relationships, the more you attract partners who mirror exactly what you're trying to heal. Your unconscious mind doesn't want quick fixes. It wants integration, even if that means choosing the painful path of familiar patterns over genuine intimacy. Jung understood that heartbreak is not the enemy, but the messenger, and every message from the unconscious, no matter how brutal, is ultimately in service of individuation, the process by which you become whole, integrated, and self-actualized. Jung discovered that every person carries within them a hidden blueprint of their ideal romantic partner, called the Anima for men and Animus for women. Your Animus isn't based on what you consciously think you want in a partner. It's formed from your earliest experiences with masculine energy, particularly your relationship with your father or father figures. Here's where modern dating becomes psychologically dangerous. Dating apps and social media have turned partner selection into a projection playground where your unconscious patterns operate with unprecedented intensity. When you swipe through profiles, your Animus is scanning for familiar energy signatures, not healthy partnership potential. That mysterious, emotionally unavailable man who barely shows his face in photos. Your Animus recognizes him immediately because he carries the same energetic signature as unresolved masculine wounds from your past. The excitement you feel isn't attraction. It's your unconscious mind saying, "Finally, a chance to heal that old wound." This explains why dating apps create such addictive patterns. Each swipe activates your Animus projections, flooding your system with the familiar cocktail of hope and anxiety that your psyche has learned to interpret as romantic chemistry. This explains why the men who are genuinely kind, available, and interested often feel boring or fail to spark that intense chemistry you crave. Your animus has been programmed to equate love with struggle, inconsistency with passion, and emotional unavailability with mystery worth pursuing. The healthy men don't trigger your unconscious healing agenda, so your nervous system interprets their stability as a lack of chemistry. Research on unconscious attraction patterns shows that we're most drawn to partners who embody both positive and negative traits of our primary caretakers, recreating childhood dynamics in adult relationships. Modern dating culture has weaponized these unconscious projections more effectively than any previous generation. Breadcrumbing, love bombing, and hot and cold behavior aren't just toxic tactics. They're psychological triggers that activate your animus projections more powerfully than consistent healthy behavior ever could. When he texts you at 2 a.m. after days of silence, your animus floods your system with the familiar cocktail of anxiety and excitement that your unconscious mind has learned to interpret as love. Dating apps amplify this by providing an endless stream of potential projection targets, each profile becoming a canvas for your animus fantasies. The cruel irony is that the more work you do on yourself, the more sophisticated your projections become. You might avoid the obvious red flags, but your animus adapts, drawing you to men who present as emotionally evolved, but carry subtle forms of the same unavailability. He might talk about emotions but never actually be vulnerable. He might seem spiritual but use his practices as another form of detachment. Your animus doesn't distinguish between genuine emotional maturity and performative consciousness. It simply seeks familiar patterns dressed in more appealing packaging, ensuring you remain trapped in cycles of projection rather than genuine connection. Every person you attract is showing you a piece of your own shadow, the aspects of yourself that you've rejected, denied, or failed to integrate. Jung understood that romantic relationships are the most powerful mirrors for shadow work because intimate partnerships strip away the defenses we use to hide from ourselves. When you repeatedly attract emotionally unavailable partners, they're reflecting your own relationship with emotional unavailability. Consider this carefully. The qualities that most frustrate you in romantic partners are often disowned aspects of your own psyche. If you're constantly drawn to men who can't commit, examine your own relationship with commitment. Not just to romantic partners, but to yourself, your dreams, your growth, your healing. Your shadow might hold profound ambivalence about true intimacy, disguised as a desire for deep connection. The shadow in romantic relationships often manifests as attraction to your psychological opposite. If you identify as the giver, the supporter, the one who always shows up, you'll be magnetically drawn to takers, users, and men who demand your energy while offering little in return. This isn't masochism. It's your psyche trying to show you the parts of yourself that you've abandoned in your quest to be good. Modern dating intensifies shadow projections because the early stages of relationships are built almost entirely on fantasy and projection. You fill in the gaps of what you don't know about someone with wishful thinking and unconscious material. That mysterious man who barely texts you back becomes a canvas for all your animus projections, while his actual personality remains completely unknown to you. The most painful truth about shadow work in relationships is that you cannot love someone more than you love the rejected parts of yourself. If you've disowned your own capacity for selfishness, independence, or emotional unavailability, you'll unconsciously punish yourself for wanting these qualities by choosing partners who embody them in toxic ways. Your psyche is trying to teach you that integration, not elimination, is the path to wholeness. The key to breaking repetitive heartbreak patterns isn't learning how to spot red flags or developing better boundaries, though these skills matter. The real transformation happens when you stop trying to heal your wounds through romantic partners and start integrating your own psychological wholeness. Jung called this process individuation, and it's the only way to stop unconsciously attracting partners who confirm your deepest fears about love. Individuation in relationships means becoming conscious of your animus projections and learning to relate to actual people rather than your fantasies about who they could become. This requires developing what Jung called conscious suffering, the ability to tolerate the discomfort of seeing someone clearly, including their limitations, without trying to change them or change yourself to accommodate their dysfunction. The first step is recognizing that intense chemistry often signals unconscious material being activated, not genuine compatibility. When you feel that familiar rush of excitement mixed with anxiety around someone new, pause and ask yourself, what wound is this person activating? What part of my shadow is being triggered? The goal isn't to avoid all triggers, but to engage with them consciously rather than being controlled by unconscious patterns. True attraction develops differently when you're operating from psychological wholeness. Instead of that addictive push-pull dynamic, you'll notice a steady sense of appreciation, curiosity, and genuine care for someone's well-being. The men who are attracted to your integrated self will be fundamentally different from those who were drawn to your wounds and projections. This process requires ruthless honesty about your own patterns. Notice how you behave differently around men who show genuine interest versus those who are ambiguous about their feelings. Do you become more anxious, more accommodating, more willing to ignore your own needs when someone is emotionally unavailable? These behavioral shifts reveal where your shadow work needs attention. When a woman begins to integrate her shadow and withdraw her animus projections, something remarkable happens to her presence in romantic relationships. She stops seeking external validation to fill internal voids and starts relating from a place of genuine self-worth. This shift in consciousness creates a completely different type of magnetism, one based on authenticity rather than unconscious need. Men who are attracted to integrated women are typically doing their own psychological work. They're drawn to your stability, your ability to see them clearly without trying to fix or change them, and your capacity for genuine intimacy rather than projection-based fantasy. These relationships develop more slowly, but with much greater depth and sustainability than connections based on unconscious attraction patterns. The most powerful aspect of psychological integration is that it makes you naturally repellent to the types of men who previously caused you heartbreak. Emotionally unavailable men are unconsciously seeking partners who will pursue them, tolerate inconsistency, and provide the emotional labor they're unwilling to do themselves. When you stop filling these roles, they lose interest and move on to find someone who will. This doesn't mean you become cold or detached. Instead, you develop what Jung called conscious relatedness, the ability to engage deeply while maintaining your psychological boundaries. You can feel compassion for someone's wounds without making it your responsibility to heal them. You can appreciate someone's potential without sacrificing your present needs for their possible future growth. The integrated woman attracts partnership rather than projects. She draws men who are interested in building something together rather than being rescued, healed, or completing themselves through relationship. This shift in the type of attention you receive can initially feel disorienting if you've been accustomed to intense, dramatic romantic dynamics, but it creates space for genuine love to develop. Learning to recognize and appreciate healthy masculine energy requires deprogramming yourself from cultural messages that equate emotional unavailability with desirability. Healthy masculine energy is consistent, reliable, and emotionally present without being overwhelming or possessive. The man operating from integrated masculinity doesn't create artificial scarcity to maintain your interest. His attention and affection are steady rather than intermittent. One of the clearest signs of healthy masculine energy is a man's relationship with his own emotions. He doesn't use emotional unavailability as a power strategy, nor does he dump his unprocessed feelings onto you for management. He takes responsibility for his own healing, while being capable of genuine vulnerability and empathy. His communication is direct rather than manipulative or ambiguous. Healthy masculine energy respects your autonomy and doesn't try to control or possess you. This man is secure enough in himself that your independence enhances rather than threatens the relationship. He doesn't need you to complete him or heal his wounds. He chooses you from a place of wanting to share his already full life rather than needing you to fill his internal voids. The integrated masculine doesn't play games because he doesn't need to maintain artificial power dynamics to feel safe in relationship. He's interested in collaboration and mutual growth rather than conquest or validation. His consistency isn't boring. It's the foundation that allows genuine intimacy and passion to develop over time. Perhaps most importantly, healthy masculine energy can hold space for your full emotional range without trying to fix, dismiss, or manage your feelings. He understands that your emotions are information and energy rather than problems to be solved. This capacity creates safety for your own emotional expression and psychological development within the relationship. The ultimate goal isn't to find the perfect partner, but to become so psychologically integrated that you naturally attract and appreciate partners who are also committed to consciousness and growth. This means releasing the fantasy that romantic love will complete you and embracing relationships as ongoing opportunities for mutual development and support. Your new relationship blueprint is built on genuine compatibility rather than unconscious projection. You evaluate potential partners based on their character, emotional maturity, and ability to participate in conscious relationship rather than their capacity to trigger familiar patterns from your past. This requires developing new assessment skills and trusting your intuition over your conditioned responses. The relationships you create from psychological integration will feel different from past experiences. There will be less drama, but more depth, less intensity, but more intimacy, less passionate highs and lows, but more sustained contentment and growth. These partnerships support your individual development while creating something meaningful together. Remember that changing your relationship patterns requires patience with yourself and the process. Your unconscious mind has been operating from these patterns for years or decades, and integration doesn't happen overnight. Be compassionate with yourself when old patterns surface, and use these moments as opportunities for greater awareness rather than self-judgment. The most beautiful aspect of this psychological work is that it transforms not just your romantic relationships, but your entire relationship with yourself. When you stop seeking external validation and start providing your own emotional security, you become free to love others from choice rather than need. This is where genuine partnership becomes possible. Which of these patterns resonates most strongly with your own romantic experiences? Share in the comments below. Your insights might help another woman recognize her own unconscious relationship blueprint. If you're ready to explore more about how Jungian psychology can transform your approach to love and relationships, subscribe for deeper insights into the psychology of authentic connection. Your heart doesn't have to keep breaking in the same places. Integration is possible, and the love you've been seeking starts with the relationship you build with yourself.